We've all felt the impulse to avoid looking at the darker corners of our own mind. The emotions we try to hide, the thoughts we consider unacceptable, the memories we bury. All of these form a kind of other self, invisible, but always present. And when we least expect it, it emerges, in bursts of anger, in unsettling dreams, in impulsive decisions we can't explain. But what if these aspects we fear were not enemies? What if, instead of being destructive, they were keys to liberation? The Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung called this dimension of the psyche the shadow, the sum of everything we reject in ourselves but that continues to live, hidden in the unconscious. At the same time, on the other side of the world, Tibetan Buddhist practitioners developed a ritual called Chöd, literally to cut, a radical spiritual path that consists of facing one's own demons, both inner and outer, by offering one's body as a symbolic feast, an extreme gesture, but one that transforms fear into wisdom. Today, we will investigate how Jung and the Tibetan masters came to recognize something similar, that the darkest aspects of human existence can become doors to expanded consciousness. Two very different worlds, the analytical psychology of modern Europe and the tantric Buddhism of medieval Tibet, but both pointing in the same direction, the need to embrace what we fear in order to discover who we really are. So the question is, what happens when we confront our own ghosts? Do they destroy us, or do they set us free? Welcome to the Emerald Codex. If you want more deep investigations into ancient wisdom and hidden knowledge, subscribe. Thanks for supporting this work. To explore this theme, we chose two traditions that, in completely different contexts, developed sophisticated methods for working with inner darkness. On one side, Carl Gustav Jung, 1875-1961, the Swiss psychiatrist who broke from Freud to create his own approach, analytical psychology. Jung believed that the human mind contained not only personal repressed contents, but also universal images and patterns he called archetypes. Among these contents, the shadow holds a central place. Everything we fail to recognize in ourselves, but that insists on manifesting. On the other side, the Tibetan ritual of Chöd, developed in the 11th century by Machig Labdrön, a Buddhist practitioner whose revolutionary vision transformed Tibetan tantra. Chöd is not just a meditation, but a radical practice of surrender. To the sound of a drum and chants, the practitioner visualizes offering their own body as food for spirits, demons, and inner forces, a direct confrontation with what terrifies most. In the next minutes, we will dive first into Jung's vision, how he described the shadow, how it appears in dreams, myths, and the process of individuation. Then we'll explore Chöd, its history, practices, and meanings. Finally, we'll see how these two paths converge and what they can teach us today about integrating our own fears. Carl Gustav Jung was born in 1875 in Switzerland, during the height of European modernity, a time of both scientific progress and spiritual crisis. The son of a Protestant pastor, he grew up between Christian tradition and a precocious fascination with the symbolic and the occult. He studied medicine, specialized in psychiatry, and initially became a disciple of Sigmund Freud. But while Freud saw the unconscious mostly as a reservoir of repressed sexual desires, Jung believed there was much more, a collective, trans-historical dimension rooted in humanity's myths, symbols, and archetypes. It was in this context that Jung developed the notion of the shadow. For him, the psyche was not merely a struggle between reason and instinct, but a vast field where light and darkness coexisted. The shadow became one of the central figures of his theory, not only as pathology, but as an essential part of human wholeness. Jung realized that each individual carries within them a set of traits they consider unacceptable: anger, envy, destructive impulses, repressed desires, which are pushed into the unconscious. But repression doesn't eliminate them. It only makes them stronger, appearing in crises, disturbing dreams, or projections we cast on others. The shadow, for Jung, is not just psychic garbage. It also contains unrealized potential, talents that were never cultivated because they didn't fit social or familial expectations. In other words, what we call dark may hold the key to creativity, authenticity, and individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are. He observed that the shadow often manifests in myths, dreams, and fairy tales. The monster threatening the hero, the witch to be defeated, the dark sibling challenging the protagonist. These recurring images revealed a universal structure of the psyche. For Jung, confronting the shadow didn't mean destroying it, but integrating it, recognizing it as part of ourselves, without which we can never be whole. So how did Jung believe we should work with the shadow in practice? First, through attention to dreams. He saw dreams as a symbolic language in which the shadow frequently appears. Threatening figures, wild animals, dark landscapes, all may represent repressed contents asking for recognition. Second, through active imagination, a technique where the individual, in a relaxed state, dialogues with images of the unconscious. If a shadowy figure appears, instead of pushing it away, the practitioner converses with it, asking who it is, what it wants. For Jung, this was a way of creating a living relationship with the shadow. Third, by observing projections. Often, what we most despise in others is precisely what we cannot accept in ourselves. Identifying projections is an essential step in shadow integration. Finally, Jung emphasized the process of individuation, a path of self-discovery in which the shadow must be confronted for the personality to become whole. This doesn't mean becoming good or pure, but recognizing oneself as a complex being, capable of holding both light and darkness. The concept of the shadow resonated far beyond clinical psychology. Artists, writers, and filmmakers found in it a powerful lens for understanding creativity. In many cultures, the idea of a dark double echoes ancient mythologies, the story of Cain and Abel, or the trickster figure in native traditions. Jung offered modern vocabulary for something humanity had long intuited, that humans are inevitably divided, and reconciliation with that division is essential. In today's culture, the language of the shadow even permeates popular discourse. To speak of shadow work has become shorthand for self-discovery practices aimed at integrating hidden traits. From transpersonal psychology retreats to contemporary spiritual workshops, the metaphor continues to spread, showing its vitality. In today's world, where positivity and performance often serve as social masks, Jung's proposal is more relevant than ever. He reminds us that trying to erase our shadows only strengthens them. Integrating them, on the other hand, makes us more human, creative, and conscious of our choices. From clinical psychology to spiritual practice, shadow work remains an invitation to courage. Not to flee from what frightens us, but to embrace what we are. And, as we'll see, this is precisely where the Tibetan tradition of Chöd meets Jung, in a radical willingness to face the dark without turning away. While Jung was developing analytical psychology in 20th century Europe, medieval Tibet gave rise to a spiritual practice with a strikingly similar aim: how to deal with fear and inner darkness. Chöd, founded by the yogini Machig Labdrön (1055–1149), proposed something daring even within Tibetan tantra. Instead of banishing demons or malevolent spirits, the practitioner was instructed to invite them, welcome them, and, in visualization, offer their own body as food. Chöd was practiced at night, often in cemeteries or frightening places. The sound of the damaru, small drum, and kangling, a trumpet originally made from a human femur, created an intense ritual atmosphere. The goal? To cut attachment to the ego and dissolve fear radically, transforming demons into allies. Comparing Chöd to Jung's psychology reveals both stark differences and striking parallels. Jung encouraged observation and inner dialogue with shadowy images through dreams and active imagination. Chöd enacted this encounter in a vivid, embodied ritual. For Jung, the shadow was part of the individual and collective unconscious. In Chöd, demons could be seen as both inner forces and external entities, yet the instruction remained the same. Don't reject, but offer. Where Jung asked patients to dialogue with shadow figures, Chöd practitioners symbolically offered their flesh. Both sought the same transformation: that what seemed threatening might reveal itself as wisdom. The biggest difference lies in cultural context. Jung worked in a scientific, psychological framework, crafting language that modern Europe could understand. Machig Labdrön operated in a ritual and devotional world where Buddhism, local shamanism, and tantric visions intertwined. Despite differences, a universal theme emerges. Liberation is found at the site of fear. Both Jung and Machig insisted we must move toward what we avoid. Inner monsters, whether in European unconscious or Tibetan cemeteries, are portals. This pattern appears in countless cultures: facing the dragon to win the treasure, entering the dark cave to receive the vision, descending into hell to be reborn. Humanity seems to have discovered the same law repeatedly. Transformation requires embracing what terrifies us. Today, Chöd continues to be practiced within Tibetan communities and by seekers in the West, often in dialogue with psychology. Its radical edge resonates with Jung's idea of shadow integration. Both remind us that true courage is not eliminating fear, but inviting it to the table. Placing Jung and Chöd side by side reveals a convergence. The shadow and the demon are not external enemies to be destroyed, but essential parts of awakening consciousness. We see echoes elsewhere too. In Christian mysticism's dark night of the soul, in indigenous initiations where animal spirits confront the seeker, and in modern psychotherapies that seek to integrate trauma rather than deny it. For contemporary explorers, this has practical implications. What if, instead of fighting our fears, we welcomed them as teachers? Instead of hiding flaws, we saw them as sources of authenticity. Even science reflects this. Exposure therapies show that confronting feared stimuli reduces anxiety. Resilience research suggests that giving meaning to painful experiences builds strength. Whether in spiritual or scientific language, the message is the same. We don't escape darkness. We transform it. To integrate these perspectives requires cultural humility. Psychology and Tibetan ritual speak different languages, yet both offer powerful tools. The point is not choosing a right path, but recognizing that human consciousness uncovers similar patterns across landscapes. So we arrive at an unavoidable question. If our fears and shadows are portals, are we willing to step through? Jung suggested that the shadow holds both our vices and our hidden gifts. Chöd taught that even demons can become allies if invited to the feast. And us. What would happen if, in our next disturbing dream, we asked, "What is this figure trying to show me?" What would shift in our relationships if, facing anger projected onto another, we wondered, "What part of this is also mine?" And what if, standing before deep fear, we tried not to fight it, but to listen? These are not questions with quick answers, but ones that can open entire journeys. Perhaps the real path of consciousness is not to banish darkness, but to learn to walk with it, like explorers entering a cave, not to kill the monster, but to find the treasure it guards. So I leave you with this invitation. What is the shadow you have not yet dared to face? Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.